Hi, this is Eric Johnson, and you're in the House of L. Cue the music.
Welcome back to the House of L. We are so excited about our next guest. You may know him as Whitney Fordman on Smallville. If I had it my way, you could see him Friday nights on the Sci-Fi Channel 19 years later as Flash Gordon. Mr. Eric Johnson, thanks for joining us today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I finally got to meet you at. You were one of the few cast members I had not met when we were in Chicago back in the
Yeah.
fall for Salute to Smallville, and I told you then that I was astounded by your recall on things from 25 years ago. I don't know if it's because you were there shorter than most everybody else that I usually talk to or not, but it just seemed like you were like, oh yeah, it was sunny that day, going through the memories.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was all pretty locked in my mind in terms of it. I've got a bit of a freakish memory for those sorts of things, but I guess that, had I been there longer, probably all would have started to blur to a certain amount. That first season was pretty memorable.
Yeah, you get to retain some of that, thankfully. Do you remember, as far as like when you were going out, was this something that your agent approached you about? Was this something you heard about? Because you, different than a lot of people on the show, you had been acting for a number of years. I mean, your start was Legends of the Fall your first
That was the first big thing I'd done.
big thing you did? Yeah.
Yeah, I started. I did my first professional theater show when I was 11 years old. Did some commercials and some TV work, and an indie film before Legends of the Fall had come up. Did that. Obviously, that was a pretty big moment for a 14-year-old Eric. But I'd been lucky. I'd had a solid career and a solid career before going into Smallville. And our pilot director, David Nutter, I had auditioned for him for 2 years leading up to this, and in the pilots that he had done, which were both Roswell and Dark Angel, I believe. Or maybe that was, yeah, it was somewhere in there. So, I had read for him. He was aware of my work, and I think he was a fan because he's very kind. And so I think the first thing I went on tape for was actually Lex Luthor, because that's what my agent had given me. Didn't remotely feel right. And then I actually read for Superman, which also didn't feel right. But I had met with David Nutter in Vancouver for that. They'd flown me out there to chat, and then the character of Whitney came up. And I had the belief of David Nutter, and they flew me down to LA to test for it. And yeah, it just felt sort of serendipitous at that time. Like David Nutter and I had been sort of in this pilot dance for a couple of years at that point, and yeah, it seemed to work out well.
Was your inclination? I mean, you hear the term Superman, and you think it's going to be something very different than what Smallville ultimately ended up being, and just kind of a different animal for that character. But going into it, was that sort of a high? You're like, oh, I don't Superman. This is a big deal.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about it, to be honest. Like, fully honest, I wasn't sure about it. I wasn't sure about, because I just knew it was going to be I knew it was going to be big. I knew it was going to be a big show. It was going to be a life-changing moment for the people involved in it. It was going to have a lot of eyeballs on it. And I mean, you can't do anything with a character of that notoriety without it being either a massive success or it'd be a footnote and a failure. And I just knew with the people involved, and David Nutter himself, who had already done Superboy and was so passionate about it, and the network was so very clearly behind it. And you got to remember, this was on the heels of Dawson's Creek coming out and being this big breakout sort of teen genre hit, like this teen YA hit, that every network was looking for another YA hit. And to be able to do Superman in that world, I just knew it was going to be a slam dunk. So to be fair, I was cautious about it. I had a career going. I'm like, is this something that I want to do? And then, ultimately there was people like David Nutter, the fact that the network was so hyped on it that they were really pushing to do it properly. And I really wasn't in a position in my career to really say no to much, but I at that point I'd been choosy. I'd turned down other series and other opportunities because I didn't feel right. But something about this one just felt right, despite some reservations. Like I said, I just knew it was going to be a thing.
Everybody I talked to has always said, you know, I won't say everybody, but most of the cast at one point or another in talking about it before they ever got a hold of the script had that same mentality of the I don't know if I, you know, should is this going to work? Is this going to be
Mhm.
a, you know, are they going to mess this up or not? And then they read the pilot and everybody was sold.
Yeah,
Was that
it
true
was
for you as well?
absolutely the writing was really beautiful, and it felt honest, and it felt like this. The thing that I loved about it is that when we see Superman in the movies, he's a fully fledged superhero,
Mhm.
kind of unfallible, right? And I love that this was really about growing up and learning how to be a hero and making mistakes and, you know, getting up the next day to try and do better. That's really what it felt like. It felt very honest and
Yeah,
with a lot of fun. Like, my God, like, the things that we did that first episode were big fun things to do. So it was hitting all the right notes, and Alan Miles were, you know, hot writers coming into it, and everybody was really excited to be working with them. So yeah, it was you just knew it was on the page.
Whitney episodes always seemed like you got put through the fire one way or the other. I mean, literally, I think the second episode was the truck fire.
Yeah,
You know, Tom wrapped
yeah,
around you in the street and everything
yeah.
protecting you. But did you know going in where Alan Miles up front, like this is just going to be a one season deal, or we're going to see how this goes? Or
No, not at all. I mean, I don't think anybody knew. I think,
yeah,
you've got 22 episodes to figure out, and like, I think people are used to television now where you get 10 episodes and you wait 2 years in between seasons,
yeah,
but, in those days it was 22 episodes and you were just fighting to stay ahead of the shooting. So the writing was you had a lot to get done. And then,
yeah,
in between seasons, you had 3 months before you're back at it again. So you really didn't have a lot of time to catch up. So I f- like there would have been the big overarching plans, but like, you know, how you're going to get there is going to be a mystery until you start walking. I think and then you're also like sort of getting a feel for the characters and feel for where the audience is and a feel for where the story
sure,
needs to go. So no, I mean, I had no idea it was going to be
yeah.
a sort of one and done situation. It makes very much sense from story wise.
Yeah, yeah, obviously, and that being true for everybody for the 10-year run, but do you remember getting that call? Did Alan Miles call you and were like, "Hey, this
No, no,
we love you, but you're not coming back."
yeah, no, it wasn't like that. I mean, it was I think in retrospect, you know, as a 22-year-old guy, I wish it would have been handled a little differently, but
Yeah,
nobody wants to be the person making those phone calls or
sure,
having that meeting. And, when it's the first time it happens to you, it's pretty raw, but it's happened since then. And, understanding and talking to other people, it happens to people all the time. And, the first thing you learn not to do is take it personal. And the story is king. And so, it was sort of undecided. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be coming back, and then they didn't know how I'd be coming back and in what capacity.
yeah,
And then it's just, and then there was times that they asked me to come back, and I just wasn't available
sure,
for pieces. So it was like, again, I'd been working before I did Smallville and continued to work after, so
right,
it wasn't like the first job I ever had. So I had
yeah.
the confidence that I was going to be able to keep going.
And obviously, I think it speaks to how well the show was run because obviously you came back a couple times, season
Hmm.
2 and season 4
Yeah.
for guest
Yeah.
appearances, and then you mentioned not being able to return for some that you were asked
Yeah.
for, so I have to think it was a good working environment for you nonetheless with
Well,
everybody.
yeah, I mean, I think the crew and cast and that it was an all-star crew that was running those shows, and they're wonderful people. And first season we were kind of going through, battling through the trenches. Like, it was a big
Mhm.
beast that we were all trying um to take down, and I had a small part in that, but it was nice to be back around them and see those familiar faces and catch up and throw the Letterman jacket back on.
You're kinda new to the cons that everybody's been
Yeah.
doing here
Yeah.
lately, and so that was one of your first big ones that I know you've done with us
Yeah.
back in the fall. What has that
Yeah.
been like for you to come 25 years later and see these crowds that are still piling in for this show?
It's the seeing the multiple generations who've found this show, getting to hear firsthand from people what the show meant to them. Um, how it's a comfort show for many people.
Yeah,
It's a routine watch, so it's something that people put on as they go to sleep. To know that this show, the show is so much bigger than my experience on it. Do you know what I mean? And so
yeah,
that's been incredible to talk to people about, and very, very, humbling in so many ways. That's something that, I was there for a short period of time, but it means so much to so many people. And, you kind of get lost in I could think about like, oh, I didn't really like how they let me know I was off the show, but that
yeah,
doesn't matter at all. What matters is, how the audience takes away from it. That's the reality of this show. My reality of this show is such a small part. So it's absolutely a joy to get to talk to people and interact with people and hear what they liked about the show and just know more about them, know more about who they are and what their story is. Because whether it was in Chicago or Liverpool or Atlanta, or I'm sure all over the world, getting to hear how people found the show. I get some 12-year-old kid coming up to me and I'm like, well, you were clearly not alive when this came out. When did you start watching? And hearing the story of how they became a fan or their entry into the Superman mythology. For a lot of people that was Smallville, and then they became superhero fans after that. So it's been
yeah.
a lot of fun.
I have to give you your flowers because I did stand with you at your table some, and the people coming around, I mean, you were so gracious and so I mean, you wanted to hear what everybody had to say, and I think that's true for Tom and Michael and everybody doing
Yeah,
these, but
yeah.
doing them week in and week out, I know can be quite monotonous for them, but you were really engaged with everybody, and I always love to see that.
Yeah, I think the there's a give and take in all of this, and I think I've been very, very lucky and have been able to take a lot from this industry and the job that I do, and to be able to be there for a moment, see people and hear their stories. It's a small thing that I can do to be giving back. And I mean, honestly, the thing that sort of always kept me away from these things had nothing to do with the fans. It was more about the
Sure.
commerce around it. It was always a little weird to me, and I didn't quite get it. But I'm happy to be first of all thought of and included with such a great group of people, and the other thing for me is a chance to see some old friends and catch up and hang out and meet some new ones, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, because Atlanta was it just you and Kristen, I think,
Yeah,
at Dragon
yeah,
Con? But
yeah,
then so you get to Chicago and everybody being up there and so many people that were
yeah,
there from the beginning of the show. I know you just
yeah.
kinda kept catching you looking around like it was a little surreal for you, I
Yeah, it
bet.
was a little wild. It was a little wild. It's amazing how little time passes after so much time has passed. Because we're talking
Yeah.
25 years now. And 25 years almost to like right to the day of when we were shooting the pilot right now. So it's pretty wild.
Everybody always loves to ask you guys at cons, what's something you took away from the set? You actually have a better story of that than most people because not everybody can say that they that they met their spouse on the
Yeah,
show.
that's true.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you
I
wanna
took
tell
away
that
my
story or
wife.
not, but
I
yeah, I
took
always
away
thought
my
that was
wife. Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I could have had the Letterman jacket, but I went with the wife instead. Yeah, we had done the pilot and we'd come back and we're going to series and Annette O'Toole had hired like a personal assistant to help booking with travel and transportation and all this sort of stuff. And I happened to meet them on set, and it turns out we were both from the same hometown of Edmonton, Alberta, and
Oh, nice.
and then it was like missing each other on set, seeing each other on set. And then, I think we sort of started dating. We managed to keep it under the radar for a good long time until the sort of word slipped out, wanting to keep it under wraps because film sets are a little like high school. People can be chatty.
Sure.
So we were pretty quiet about it. But, we moved in together um, that summer. So it was, so yeah, 25 years.
Yeah, so So even better
Yeah.
memories
Yeah,
as a
right?
result of the show, which is good
Yeah.
for you. All right, I wanna put some of your classic retention to the test. Not
Jeez.
not quizzing you too much, but I just wanna know because we were talking about it at the outset, and Whitney did get put through the ringer a good bit.
Did, yeah.
Were you quick to call for stunt and have somebody else step in, or were you thinking, "No, I'm gonna do this one myself"?
Oh man, I love doing it. I love doing it every
Yeah,
time I can. You know, I mean, I didn't have too many crazy things where you know, other than like trucks flipping and stuff like that, where I'm clearly not going to
sure.
be in the driver's seat.
Right.
Um, but I loved it. Like I love all that stuff. It's run and jump and play pretend. Like that's just being a kid on the playground. It's a lot of fun, and we had an amazing stunt team and people who have continued to work with and run into you know, it's a bit of a small film world out there. So, you know, to get into run into those familiar faces 25 years later and catch up and chat. And yeah, I think my favorite stuff was some of the football stuff that we got to do, you know, live out my high school football fantasies that were very not my reality. So that was a good time. The truck flip was good. You know, any sort of like fight sequences, the Tina Greer stuff was super fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I love all that stuff.
Yeah. Now did you play in high school, or was that,
I did, I was
if it was
terrible.
tongue in cheek? Okay, alright.
Yeah, I you know, I went to basically, I went to high schools where if you wanted to be on the team, you were on the team kinda thing. There
Gotcha.
was no real tryouts, they just needed people. My high schools were pretty small, so, you know, I think the thing that I loved is I loved being part of the team. I was not the most competitive guy out there. I'm not out there to dominate or anything like that. I just, you know, I like being part of a team. And I think that's why I like film so much. It's like a creative team sport where y'all got to work together to achieve a goal. So, but yeah, I was pretty terrible.
I doubt that very seriously. It showed well on screen, at least.
Well, yeah, well, I
Um,
loved it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when talking about talking to these people that do come up to you, though,
um,
what do you think has been the legacy that has carried the show forward? Because it was not a flash in the pan thing. I think it was really the last of this dynasty of television in some ways, a 10 season show that,
yeah,
was
I
back
think
every year and everything.
I mean, you probably look to that, to Smallville, Supernatural, those
Yeah.
shows as the ones that really, continued on and carried out a really long run of the sort of 22 a year kind of thing. I mean, you've got some of the procedural shows that do that too, but like, you know, I think the legacy is it was a hopeful, feel good show in a time that people needed it. And, you know, I think people felt like they needed a hero at that time. It was a little rocky. I mean, we're talking, we were shooting when, you know, 9/11 happened, and
Right.
it was kind of rocked people in a lot of ways. And so people wanted a hero to believe in. And I think that's what Smallville gave people. And it gave kids somebody to look up to. And it was a show a family could sit around and watch together and enjoy.
Was that talking about 9/11? Because I'm always curious. I know you guys were shooting,
Hmm.
I think the third episode when that happened, which
Hmm.
was a heavy football episode.
It was, yeah.
And I know when Schneider and I have talked about it before, he remembered sitting in the stands when everybody got told. Do you have a
Mhm.
memory of that day,
I do
of
have a
how that
memory of
day
that
went down?
day, and it was pretty wild. Like I was driving into work, super excited about the day. It was a beautiful sunny day. I had the top down off my Jeep, just ready to go, bouncing into work, and I walked into uh I walked into hair and makeup, and everybody was crying, and I look up on the TV screen in the corner and just saw it.
Mm,
I had no idea. I was sort of blissfully unaware that whole morning as I was getting excited to go to work. Uh, and it really, you know, there was a like that old adage, the show must go on. Like we
yeah,
had to keep going. And, you know, there were so many people who were worried about friends and family and how am I going to get home and flights being grounded. And we'd see the fighter jets go overhead as they escorted planes into the airport in Vancouver. And I just know that everybody was afraid of, like, you know, there was this feeling of everybody wanting to get home. You know, everybody wanted to be home because people were feeling a little rocked. But you know, we had a day to get, and you know, the show must go on. So we
yeah,
kind of got through it and navigated the next couple weeks, and with a lot of different changes to schedules in terms of where people were. And
sure.
but I mean, not to be self-aggrandizing for the show or anything like that, but it was also like we you know, it was kind of like when the pandemic hit, people turned to certain kinds of entertainment for an
Mhm.
escape. There's a it sounds silly to say that, oh, we're doing something and it has this sort of layer of importance, but it is in a way an act of service. Like you're providing people with something, whether that's a laugh or, you know, you're you're teaching people about something, or it's just an escape. And that was
Yeah.
the other thing that Smallville provided, is it was an escape from the news cycle that at the time was pretty bleak.
Yeah, I hear people say, and it was 4.5 weeks later that the show premiered, and it was
Yeah.
such a Smallville was really the first big thing on television that was kind of starting to turn
Hmm.
away from that. So to
Yeah.
talk to you, I'm always amazed at how integral it is to it because you're right, people were looking for a hero
Hmm.
in that time period, and to see, Tom play that character and you all play that character was, I think, a great escape
Yeah.
in those first few weeks,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, Whitney, not always the nicest guy, on the show. You, extremely nice.
Appreciate
So
that.
was
To be
that was
fair, I just want to set the record straight. Whitney had no idea the necklace was kryptonite. Like, so there's a whole layer here of like unintended consequences,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, not starting off the show on the right foot with the
sure.
audience, that's for sure. But come on, he didn't know it was kryptonite.
He wasn't aware. He wasn't aware. But reading that and knowing, we're going for that archetype with this character, was that
Yeah.
did you look at that and go, "What am I gonna go out in the street and people are gonna scream at me for
I
breaking
kind
up
of
Clark
knew
and
it no
Lana?"
matter what. I mean, you're not going to go against Superman and be the winner. I mean, the thing is like, I think there was a danger there of making him a stereotype too. And this sort of like jock a-hole that, walks around, and I mean, there's going to be an element of that, a little bit of arrogance, but they worked really hard, I think, after that first initial introduction to the audience, which is really pretty unforgivable. They worked to round Whitney out as a character, and understand him a little bit more and where he's coming from, and I think they achieved that. Like, I think out of all the, Whitney got a really great arc in that first season. Like,
Mhm.
he got to go on this journey, and then leave, going off to do something for his country, and again, be of service, doing something selfless. And so it was, I think there was times, and depending on who the writer was or where the script came in or it came off, it could come in as a little bit like on the nose, typical jock, a-hole. And what I would just usually do is play against it, and you know, make it a little different. Sometimes do the
Yeah.
opposite, which would be, I think, more interesting, that people seem to, at least people I was working with would get into. So, yeah, that was
Well, and
sort
it
of that.
it creates that problem for the viewer because 'cause you're like, "I wanna hate him, but I just
Yeah,
can't. He's just so
yeah.
likable."
It's funny. I ended up playing a character quite similar to that years later, and it was like an interesting similar dynamic of like, where, the romantic relationship with the female lead goes away, then what is the purpose of the character, and like having to sort
Right.
of figure out what that is, and again, it was the same thing, that my character got lots of development, because they're like, oh, this, originally written as a foil to this potential love. It's like, how do you round out that character who's just initially set up to just be an obstacle to the love story that can't be, because if you put them together right away, you have no show anymore. So,
Nowhere to go.
uh,
Yeah.
you know, the evolution of from an obstacle to a fully fledged character was fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I would think so. And you do get to you have that element of getting to be the bad boy a little bit too, and
Yeah,
and know
yeah,
that you're supposed to be the foil. But
yeah.
he does go through some, I mean, the death of the father and
Hmm.
the character's father and everything, and the leaving, and then so you come to wrap season 1 kinda up in the air at that point, or had gotten the call that you didn't really wanna get, but you had to feel a little good because you did get some closure coming back, I guess, in a roundabout
Yeah,
way
I
with
think,
season 2, even
you
though it
know
wasn't technically Whitney, but
Yeah, yeah. No, it was true, but it's like, it was also like it was still bittersweet. Like, I didn't know about that, what was going to happen with the character, until I got to the end of the script. And
right.
so, like, that wasn't, that was, and the thing is, everybody else on the show knew before me. Like, the props team knew, wardrobe,
Yeah.
like, everybody knows except for me. So you kind of feel like the last one to find out. It's like somehow like the inverse of a surprise party. It's like everybody knows, and instead of it being
I
an
think
upper,
it's
it's a
called
downer.
intervention. I
Yes,
think
it
it's called
basically that's what it
intervention.
is. So it's a it's a little bit of a downer, and it's like but like Game of Thrones, Sopranos, shows have body counts, and especially more now than ever before. So again, it's never the thing you want to read. You always want to hold out this hope that you're all characters can exist in possibility forever. But again, it was like the way he went out, the sequence that we got to do was a blast. It was some of the most fun I had working on that show. It was this amazing action sequence. We had a helicopter in the air. We had like 7 cameras rolling at one point. It was
Oh
super
yeah,
cool. It was we went out with a bang. So
yeah,
I'll
literally.
take it. Yeah.
And then season 4, you were telling me about this. In season 4, you got to come back with you and Tom and some
Yeah.
wonderful wigs,
Yeah.
and and you were supposed to be gone
Yeah, I had
pretty
booked another
quickly, or
show.
if I
I
recall.
had booked another show, and I had to be on a plane at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, look, guys, I can come in here for this cameo, but I'm booked. I've got to be on a plane. I'm shooting the next day. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. We'll make it work. And I'm sitting there, I'm there at like 5:30 in the morning, getting ready, make sure we're ready to get the day going. And then, the day shooting. I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there. And I'm, going like, are we gonna, and then finally I just, I'm communicating with the ADs. I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I can't be here for the scene. I gotta go. Like I've got a plane and I'm checking in 30 minutes. So like they're like, what are you doing? You can't leave yet. We haven't shot. And I'm like, you
Nobody
got
told the
20.
director.
Nobody had told the director. Poor Pat Williams, who became a dear friend of mine, who I worked with extensively on Flash Gordon, who you're a fan of, and he's like, nobody told me. I had no idea. I would have shot you out earlier. And I'm like, you got 20 minutes, pal. And we
Good thing
managed
it
to
was just the
shoot.
cold open.
Yeah, shoot it all, steady cam running around. It was chaos, and I literally was taking off I was in my own jeans at this point. So I literally just taken off the Letterman jacket, handing it to Steve Oben, our wardrobe, on-set wardrobe, and running to the car that was on the other side of the field, ready to go to the airport with my bag in it, and took off. So it was, it was a little crazy, but we made it. Just made it.
Made it. I'm glad at least your last appearance was very memorable for you,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
You obviously talking about your credits, and you've got a long list, but I think everybody has taken something special from the show with them, not
Mm.
physically, but but emotionally and mentally in their careers moving forward. What is something that Whitney taught you or this show taught you that you've kind of pulled from here in the decades later?
I think there was like for me the thing that I grew up a lot as a performer and as a person during that time. Like I was fully on my own, away from my friends and family. And I'd spent a lot of time away, but this was like the forever away. Like I wasn't ever
Yeah.
going back home after this. And I was starting a new life, and that was my kickoff into it. And it really set me up well for that. The highs and the lows. So some pretty big highs of launching the show being hugely successful, record breaking show for the network, the love that was pouring for the show, the hate that was pouring out from my character on the chat rooms. And there was a lot of really cool moments. The show being parodied in Mad Magazine is something that I will
Yeah.
forever take with me as it being one of those landmark moments of like, doing theater in Edmonton, Alberta, wanting to be an actor and then being parodied in Mad Magazine. It kind of feels like a little notch in the cap. So I think it was the highs and the lows, and the fact that, you just stick with it and you keep going, and that's the business, and that's life. And, I'd be lying if there wasn't, moments of jealousy of knowing that, friends were all making this fun show, getting to do cool things. But I also got to go off and do new things and have different adventures that wouldn't have been possible if I was still there. I feel very fortunate the fact that my career has been very diverse. I've been able to do a lot of different things with different people,
Yeah.
and again, wouldn't have been possible if I was there for 10 seasons. So, there was a lot of good things to take away. And besides my wife.
Right.
It was a tremendous opportunity. I learned a lot. I learned about a lot about being comfortable and confident in my own skin, and you know, some perseverance, because it was, you know, it the highs came with some lows. You know, it only makes you stronger.
Yeah. I know it was, you know, a page of your life, obviously, but I
Mhm.
think it's for a lot of the people that watched, it's a book. I mean, it's a huge part
Yeah.
of their lives, and it's I talk to so many fans, especially at these cons and things that are, you know, that talk about their life experiences on this side of the screen,
Mhm.
you know, mirroring what you guys were going through or what your characters were
Yeah.
going through on that side of the screen. I'm like, but you guys on set were going through some of the same. I mean, just life and
Just life,
relationships and
you know?
experiences that, you know, I think
Absolutely.
people tend to forget that sometimes that you got to turn that stuff off at the door and when the red
Yeah.
light comes on and
And I think there was a period of time where I wanted to differentiate myself from the show as well, because I think it had it was sort of following me and defining me, and I didn't feel great about, you know, feeling like I got fired off of something.
sure.
And so, you know, you wanted to define myself and like, I'm gonna, you know, get a new headline kind of thing. And then as the years have gone on, it's like, to be able to look back at it and with fondness and reverence and celebrate all the good things about it, and all the people involved, and how it all happened. I'm thankful for that. It's tough because, like, even my wife continued to work on the show after I was off. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, hearing the stories about what was going on at work and like what was happening, and just like the FOMO was crazy. And, you know, so the now in retrospect, getting able to celebrate it, you know, 25 years, meet multiple generations who, you know, truly love the show.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's humbling and heartwarming to be even a chapter of that book.
And you obviously not slowing down. Tell us about what you got coming down the pipeline.
I've got a few things. It's been a great end of 2025, start to 2026. The big one that I think it'll be 2027 is the show Vought Rising with I'm sure
Right.
a big fan favorite on your channel here of Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy. It's a spinoff prequel of the Boys series, and that'll be really fun. That's another big fun boys show
Mhm.
that'll leave some jaws on the floor. It was a blast. I just wrapped up that season, and yeah, that'll be the big one that's coming down the tracks.
Can you share who you're playing on that, or
Nope,
is that under wraps? Nope, cannot.
cannot.
Eric Kripke said no, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's like nope, this is locked up.
Be
But it's
watching.
it's it's all good. And it's like, if anybody's like, you know, anybody who's a fan of that world is gonna have their mind blown. It's pretty incredible.
We'll look forward to that. Eric, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a long time coming. I've
I
loved
know, I'm
getting
so
to
sorry, but I
No, no,
appreciate
no.
your
I just
patience
mean
and
from for 25 years, I've never gotten a chance to talk to you, and I couldn't. I think they were going to pull me away from you, security back at the con, because they're like, okay, you need to leave this gentleman alone. I was like, no, I've never gotten to talk to him. I actually want
Oh,
to.
that's awesome.
I want to hear his mind. And then you know they dragged me out. We won't talk about that. Where they dragged me out and threw me out of the building. So no,
But
seriously, thank you for coming on.
it's my pleasure, and yeah, no, very excited. Can't believe it's been 25 years, and that's all thanks to people like yourself and all the fans that have really made this show into what it is. Like, none of us would be standing here talking about it if it wasn't for the love and the support of the fans. So my thanks goes out to all of you.